Oh yeah, this is Judge Mentalist coming at you with my pal over there, Big Sexy.
What up, what up, what up?
Here on Big Sexy Digital Nomad, we have a treat for you. This is going to be a little different episode, but not really. But we recorded this one before we even launched this podcast. It's been sitting around for a little while, but it is a doozy, I promise you that. So it may sound a little bit different. It may be in that mode where we don't know what's going on. Am I right?
So, hang on, the music is still playing.
Yeah, we're still getting used to that, because would we have that last episode for the first time?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
There needs to be like a fade on that or something. We'll figure it out. We'll toy around with that. That's the opening music. I love that. But yes, as you were saying over the music, this episode is a bank episode. We recorded this before we even launched the podcast. So you may hear there might be some outdated information. I don't even know what's on it because I don't remember that kind of stuff.
There's some cool stories in it. That's for sure.
Yeah. True that. It's gonna be an exciting episode. You're gonna love it. We're dropping a bank episode because we had a special. We were guesting on a special guest today that we recorded. That'll come out later. You'll wait. I'm not gonna spoil it for you. You're gonna see the media posts.
You need to scour the social media sphere.
Be sure to follow at Big Sexy Nomad on Twitter and Instagram to get all your weekly updates.
And find out what other podcasts we were on. So without further ado, I'm going to press one of these two transition music buttons that I don't remember what exactly they sound like.
Do number two.
Do number two.
I've
already done a number 2 for today.
me too, actually.
All right. So let's see what this is like and enjoy this show that we've almost entirely forgotten what it's about.
Enjoy Big Sexy Digital Nomad. Safe travels.
Because that tagline was definitely not part of the podcast when this episode was shot.
Right, exactly.
Enjoy. But short legs.
So Pocket Lab sounds like something a junior scientist would own.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know.
Pickup line. Hey, baby, why don't you come on and see my Pocket Lab?
Yeah. So, she's kind of just a little docile, kind of follows her mother around. And then there's that's Coco. And then there's Teddy, who is a Chiweenie, and he is he has what I consider to be the stereotypical dachshund look. So the dark black fur with the copper trim, copper on the paws, copper around the ears, like that. The head of the snout. So he's like 3 years old, and he's a newer addition to the fam within the past couple of months, depending on when this airs. He's a nut. He's a firecracker, and will run around. And if you hear anybody barking in the background when I'm doing one of these from home ever, it will most certainly be Teddy. Oh yeah,
gotcha.
So
wait, it's Teddy and what's the
and Coco is the Pocket Lab.
And Coco, yeah. Teddy and Coco.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, so my little one is named Fox. That's Fawkes, like Guy Fawkes, because he's a revolutionary Chihuahua. And he's usually very, very chill. He's the most chill Wawa that I have ever seen in life. He's not a yappy dog. He doesn't usually care about other dogs. The only time he really barks is if he needs something and he's not getting it, or if somebody knocks on the door or rings the doorbell, then he loses his shit.
Well, that's all normal. But the rest of it, pretty rare for the breed because they're wild.
Yeah, right, right. They're usually very, very yapping. So I know he's mixed with something. Whatever he's mixed with, chill that part of the Chihuahua out. So I'm thankful for that. But this, I can always tell when his mom is not around because uh, right now he's having to be kenneled or crated because he's been sick and has had a kennel cough, and he's also dealing with some excuse me, some a die. So he has a spine thing happening. Um, so they gave him some medication to try to keep that in check, and he has to be crated, can't move around a whole lot. So and he hates that. He hates that when he gets crated. So
Yeah, definitely understandable in that breed because they seem to always be on the move and jumping around. At least mine is, and what I hear from most Chihuahua type breeds or Chihuahua mixes that they're definitely among the more active.
right. So what do we have on the agenda for today?
Well,
So this is a bank episode. So let's. I'm asking that question, knowing damn well what the answer is.
That's
A
right.
little bit behind the scenes. You know, you think I'm gonna do some interesting podcasting. I'm gonna ask a question, and it's stupid. I'm just gonna be real. What do we say? Oh yeah, we're gonna do past travel experiences, specifically ones that are out of the country.
Yeah. I
As
will. Yeah. What? I mean, you've done a fair amount of out of the country, out of the U.S. travel.
No, sir, I have not.
No, I thought you had.
I've only been out of the country 3 times. Once to Mexico, twice to Mexico, once to Canada, and then once to Italy and Greece.
Oh, Canada. I wasn't even thinking about Canada as out of the country.
Well, I had to count it because
Yeah.
before the year 2000, I had never once. That's not true. I'd only been out of the country to Ensenada on a cruise. I took a cruise from the California 4-day cruise, which goes Ensenada, Catalina. San Diego, Catalina, Ensenada, and then back to Long Beach. That's the only time I had really been out of the country ever, and I'd done that a couple times. So I've been to Mexico, you know, on a port a few times, but as far as like going to be in the country in the year 2000, a friend of mine, a dear friend of mine, shout out to JT, uh, took a road trip. We did a road trip, and in that road trip, we went all the way down to Mexico, uh, and then all the way up to Canada, and then a bunch of states in between.
How long did
Right?
that take? I mean, driving,
Uh,
right?
yeah, we were driving. It was a 2.5 week trip, roughly. We made stops, in most places. We spent some time in Texas because we initially drove because I was going to my family reunion, which was in Houston that year. It was very interesting driving through the South. I'm a black man, for those who don't know, and JT is a really tall white guy. And we're driving a rental car. So we got pulled over a few times, saying with the thought that we were running drugs or whatever. Um, yeah.
Thanks, Southern
Uh,
hospitality, as we'll call
I'm just saying, yeah, right.
it.
But which was hilarious because when the cops pulled us over, where you headed? To my family reunion. And then they look over at who's with me. Like, okay, step out of the car. Um, and then again, our stories were the same because it was true. Uh, but that was like until my honeymoon, which is when we went to Italy and Greece. That was by far the best trip I had ever gone on. It was great. It was fucked up in 2 days on the road. We stayed with folks. We ate cheap. It was like about just a little over $2,000 in cost. Right, that was rental car, places to stay, uh, food. All of it was around $2,000, which you could not do in this day and age.
Yeah.
You're gonna spend more than
You're
that
spending
in
that more than that on the car these days.
gas and car alone. So, uh, but man, it was a crazy experience, and it's funny because it sounds like the kind of road trip you have, in your 20s and whatever. You and your buddy get together, hop in a car. No, the year 2000. So I was, how old was I? I have to do math now. Okay, no, I think I was, that makes me 29. Because in 2001, I'd be 30. Yeah, so I was in my 20s, my late 20s. Uh, Jesus, that feels a long time ago, and yet not that long ago.
Leave it up to reminiscing to make you feel old about shit, right?
Oh, you got that right. God, now damn, I'm having a moment.
So
Yeah,
so
even
in
that
prepping
road
for
trip was
this,
22 years ago.
yeah, I was thinking about international travel and trying to recall some crazy stories, but I wasn't thinking about Canada. I went to undergrad in Rochester, New York. So for anybody who's geographically not inclined, Rochester sits probably an hour ish from the Canadian border in the Niagara Falls, St. Catharines sort of area. And it became a bit of a tradition. Well, I wouldn't say that it became a tradition. I was inserted into what was a long-standing tradition in a fraternity that I
reminds me,
was in of
reminds me of an ex-girlfriend I knew. I'm sorry, go ahead.
somebody's turning 19. Everybody load up a car. We're going to Canada because once you cross that border, the drinking age is 19, the gambling age is 19, the everything is 19. So
Right.
we would make regular trips anytime somebody would turn 19 up over the border. And it was literally down to a science where if you were a first timer, you were sat down before we ever got in the car and were basically explained, this is what's going to happen when we get to the border. This is the documentation they're going to want. These are the types of questions that they're going to ask you. This is how you behave. And it was pretty much smooth sailing in and out crossing that border because when you have a plan and you prepare and everybody sticks to the plan, things go a bit more smoothly. This was no exception to that. But I will tell you, an interesting story. And we always had great time because, again, you're talking about a mixed bag of people, some over 21, some just getting to what is out of the country, the legal drinking age, but still back in the US, not legal drinking age. And it's such a touristy area and had so much fun shit going on because it was a touristy area. So there's all these different
Right.
bars. There were two casinos eventually, and later they put a casino on the American side of the falls, but that's not as exciting.
Right.
And again, as a tourist trap, you had fun shit going on. Like there was this place, and I'm sure it still exists up there, but I haven't been over the border in that area in probably a decade now. But they had this place I remember called Boston Pizza. It was kind of like a Dave and Buster's sort of thing, or
Okay.
kind of like that adult Chuck E. Cheese sort of. There's games, there's like the indoor
Right.
bowling alley shit. And then there's obviously food and drink. And I remember it was such like we were such fucking hams, and the shit that we would do to talk to girls back in that day, like and it all falls into that. If I knew what I do now and could go back there, I'd be, a,
Just as awkward.
yeah, it would be a time, but they had this thing. My favorite thing specifically about Boston Pizza is that they had this thing called the team pitcher, and this motherfucker was huge. Like I want to say that this was probably, and again,
Like
we're
a
in Canada,
bucket.
so they're whatever it was in metric, but I want to guess that this was probably like 4 5 gallons of beer in like one of those big
Wow.
tubs, and it's got the little like insert in the middle with the ice in it so that it keeps it cold or whatever.
So like
And
a metric fuck ton.
it
What you
was a
saying?
ton of fucking beer, and
Yeah.
it had like the little spout on it, so it was almost like you had your own tap there
So
to,
it's like a keg. Okay. Oh, so
well,
like a
not quite
pitch,
a
like a
keg.
not a keg, but a pitcher, like I guess like a sports Gatorade pitcher
Yeah, something like that.
is what
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of.
And
Okay.
it came with one of my favorite alcohol regulation opportunities, as I will call it, that you were not permitted to order this for parties less than four. So we would go into Boston Pizza and we'd pair off. Even if we had a group that was big enough to order the team pitcher, we'd go sit at tables in twos and we would kind of scope out tables that had two girls sitting at them that we wanted to approach so that we could go up to them and be like, hey, we want to order this team pitcher, but we need four people at the table to do it. Do you guys mind if we sit here? You can even drink some of the beer with us. It was the best fucking icebreaker line
Nice.
that ever existed. And it was fucking great. But the best, like craziest, like why the fuck did we do this story that I have actually involves a buddy of mine who we've mentioned him on the podcast, and we'll get him on here at some point in time, or maybe we already have had him on here because obviously this is a bank episode. But he's the guy that sold all his shit, and I don't know if I've talked about this yet or not, but whatever. He sold all his shit a couple years back and went and basically traveled Europe and did a quasi digital nomad thing for a couple of years. Has been back in the States, but he's got a job working for the government where they now have the ability for him to, he's filed paperwork with them that will allow him to work remotely under certain conditions. And
Oh
he's
wow.
on his way back to being a digital nomad again, except gainfully employed with this over six-figure
Ooh,
job. So
that's a beautiful thing.
that'll be nice. And he, as far as his goals are concerned, and we'll get him on here at some point in time, very similar countries with very similar ratio of what that money can do there than what you guys are talking about. But I was part of, so the school I went to, once I got to the point where you could just take electives, there was like a hospitality school as part
Mhm.
of the university that I went to. So I would take, like, I took like two different casino management courses that were just electives for me, but they were part of this, fucking, that the hospitality, they were core classes for the hospitality program. And they did these trips. In fact, the first time I ever went to Vegas was on one of these trips where, this is what it's going to cost. We're staying here. We're going to do this, but it's kind of sort of a free for all. They did one of these bus trips up to the St. Catharines for Niagara Falls
Right.
area and the casino. And it was kind of like, if I remember correctly, you'd pay like $25. There'd be a bus that would take you there and back. You'd get a free buffet at the casino, and they'd give you like $20 in like comp credits, which at the time,
Yes,
like
those were
like
the days.
like for me now, in the way that I gamble, none of this is all like not even worth my fucking time. But as a 20, 21-year-old college kid, this was the best fucking deal you could ever have. So
Yeah.
I had made arrangements to go on this trip because, again, my financial situation back at this time totally different than where it is today. So me getting that free buffet and that basically free comp money was important to me.
Right.
But for somebody who's turning
Because
19
also you could
or
turn that comp money into more money if you know how to play
that's
it
right.
right.
But I mean, it was a time in which if I were taking a trip to Vegas and would be hoarding cash, I would feel like an absolute king if I could pull together $1,000 cash to take with me for a gambling budget.
Right.
Today, that's not what my gambling budget is. Let's just put it that way. It's changed substantially. But so I had arranged to go on this trip, and a group of guys were going up for, I'm assuming, and again, we're talking about like 20 some years ago, I'm assuming for somebody turning 19. And I said, look, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go up on this bus. I'm going to get this free shit. And then I'm going to meet up with you guys. Make sure you keep a seat in the car because I'm coming back home with you. because this bus was coming, like leaving there at like
Right.
11
Yeah.
o'clock. And I was like, fuck that. We're staying out until all hours and coming home. Well, they took like 2 or 3 cars worth of people up there and did not leave an empty
Save you a
seat.
seat. Oh.
I had already told the people on the bus that I wasn't going back with them, and everybody was like, nah, it's fine, it's good. Our plan through a night of shenanigans, and again, we're talking about like 3 cars worth of people. So we've got like, we're rolling like
15
16,
people,
18
15,
deep or
16
something
people.
like that, because
Yeah.
it's 3 in the back seat, 2 in the front, and then I got added into this mix. So like I said, we probably had like 16
Right.
people for 3 cars. So we were rolling around that area, and a buddy of mine who's the beer in a backpack traveler guy, Justin, would hop in the trunk as we were going from this place to that place or the other place, because we'd do all the stuff in that area. And then there was this establishment, the the Canadian Ballet, as we called it,
Okay.
a place called
Were
Sundowners.
all the gears there wearing tutus?
For a little while, yeah, but eventually not. Let's put it this way: it was a great place to spend too much money for drinks. You can the place was called Sundowners. If it's still there, you can Google it and find out what I mean by Canadian Ballet. I think you guys have a place in Vegas that's called Peppermints or something that does a similar thing. Is that a place? Sapphires, Peppermints? I don't fucking know.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Look, I'm gonna drop a line here. I'm not much of a strip club
pole
guy,
ballet,
so
the pole
yeah,
ballets,
yeah. The ballet, yeah.
Did you just say I'm not really a strip club guy?
Yeah, exactly. Had to put that out there.
I am, just for the record, Big Sexy is a strip club guy. If any strip clubs want to sponsor Big Sexy the Digital Nomad, don't hesitate to reach out. I support sex workers, and I love me a good strip club. And yes, in Vegas we have a lot of those. So interesting one. Wait, do you remember the name of this Canadian ballet place?
Sundowners.
Sundowners. What's funny you say
Sundowners.
that, because there is a restaurant in California called Sundowners. It's like a almost like a kind of a buffet style, or more like it was like a Chipotle, if Chipotle served like steak and chicken and like wide variety, like a full menu restaurant that you order as you walk through and then sit down and they call up your order.
Oh, okay.
But I used to go there all the time. It was a great place to go after church, called Sundowners. So when you said Sundowners, I'm like, oh, they had a Sundowners up in Canada. That's pretty cool. Oh, there weren't any titties at the Sundowners that I went to.
Not
I
that you could
mean,
see
there
freely.
were,
Yes.
there were, but none that I could see, on purpose.
That, I will tell you, at that time in my life was a regular. It was part of. I mean, it's weird the shit that you remember. Like, I can remember the name of that place, and I haven't been there in over 20 years. And I also remember that it was on Lundy Lane. I don't know why, but
I can tell you why. You remember one of the first places you saw a bunch of titties.
It definitely wasn't, but I guess in a smorgasbord of sorts, it certainly was.
You saw foreign titties.
That's right.
That is at an age when you are still forming some core memories.
So those Canadian ballet stories are a whole different story for a whole different episode and a whole different day. But
right, so you were telling us about your boy Justin. And
so no big deal with homeboy hopping in the trunk or whatever, and us rolling around from place to place. And we even had a plan very similar to what I talked about before. Anybody would go up there, we would sit them down and say, this is how you deal with Border Patrol. This is what to expect. It's really not that much of a process if you know what to expect, because if you talk back to these people or you're an asshole or any of the stuff that you might normally do someplace else, you get ready to get popped on the side of the road for 4 or 5 hours, which is just a waste of everybody's fucking time. So everybody toe the line. There's also a walking bridge that goes across that you don't have to deal with too much. The whole plan going, when this all happened, I'm like, bro, you guys, I'm counting the people and I'm counting the seats and this ain't going to work. I'm like, nah, we're fine. Couple people, when we're going home, we'll hop out, we'll walk across the walking bridge, and then we will collect them on the other side.
The other side.
Right. And a dude passing out drunk in the trunk while we're driving on the New York State Thruway. No big deal. I don't recall exactly what happened, but I will tell you that we got up to that border and just kept going. Nobody got out of that car.
Oh
Nobody walked across
no.
the rainbow walking bridge, went through the fucking border with a guy in the trunk, and somehow it was just a, hey, what's up? Where you going? You were here for the night. You're going back. Cool. Have a nice day. And just zoomed on through. I don't know how the fuck it happened. I can't imagine how we were in a mental space to allow that to happen. But we did, and somehow it worked out. And nobody, we didn't get popped. We didn't get, because I mean, people were going to fucking jail if they said, pull over, we want to search your car, and there's a fucking dude in the back. Like,
Right.
Nobody's kidnapped. There's no struggle. There's nobody's tied up or anything like that.
You definitely he definitely would have
me,
been put in the drunk tank. He would have gone into a
we're
drunk
hanging
tank.
out for quite some time.
Yeah.
If we get caught.
That's hilarious.
Somehow we lucked out with that. So that was, it wasn't even in my mind because I just, that time in my life made Canada such a regular occurrence that I don't even think of it as a foreign country, even though obviously.
What years was that?
Mostly pre 9/11. So like 90,
well, obviously pre 9/11.
90 through, I mean, the early 2000s.
Okay.
I mean, we definitely, that trip was pre 9/11.
That trip was pre 9/11.
We would still
9/11, that shit ain't happening.
Yeah. I mean, you didn't even need a passport to cross the border there pre 9/11. And occasionally you'd get people that would give you a hard time, but very rare. Like if you were cordial and polite to them crossing the border, the only place that I've ever witnessed somebody giving a hard time about people in the car pre 9/11 about people in the car crossing the border without a passport was in what's the one in Michigan outside of Detroit, Windsor. We were crossing at Windsor, and the guy would give us the whole, well, how am I supposed to know what country you were born in from your driver's license? The only response to that is you don't.
Right.
They ended up not carrying those things, and we didn't have a guy in the trunk, so that was a help. But
that helps. Yeah, that helps. That helps as well. Usually, the guy in the trunk, I mean, is beneficial if he's not there, or nobody decides to look for him if he is.
Yeah, so
that's funny.
We'll get him on the pod at some point.
I had a relative on the road trip that I mentioned earlier. I had a very interesting experience in Canada as well. This was on the California side, so we're up in British Columbia, and Vancouver. I think it's Vancouver. And again, we're some college age or a little older than college age guys driving through the country on this massive road trip, just he and I. Right. So we're going up, and at this time I was a drinker. So we get up to Canada, we stay in a hostel, and then we decide to hit the town and find bars and walk around and whatever, and there's a party going on. We walk in. Now here's one thing I've learned. When you're traveling, at least back in the day, when you're traveling as an American, as a Black American in Canada, you are damn near treated like royalty.
Oh, you're a fucking unicorn.
Or at least an oddity that they have to get to know, which is all, but that's even extra for me because that is my superpower.
Dude, if you could ice skate, they'd have made you prime minister.
Yeah. If I even admired the cold, I would probably move to Canada. We get to the hostel, we go to a bar. Now, unlike you, I don't remember the names of any of these motherfucking places, because the names were not important. What was important, we walk into a bar, and guys we ran into the hostel, but the Americans are here. Hey, come on, let's buy you a drink. And I don't drink beer. So they're like, can we buy you a beer? I'm sorry, I don't drink beer. I hate beer. Beer's nasty. I finally would get you, and they would name some alcoholic drink that I never heard of that I'm pretty sure was strong as fuck. So We would drink and then we hang out and like, we're going over here. And I'm like, all right, let's go. And then we make our way to another bar. Same thing would happen. We hang out, drink, laugh, dance, party, whatever. We end up meeting these two ladies, and we're talking and trying to figure it out. And they're trying to get together with other friends, whatever. Um, but we're drunk assholes, right? And so still having fun, still laughing, whatever. But you know, when you get drunk, you kind of get focused on something, and I just focused on like these two girls. Like, oh yeah, we gotta follow them. We gotta da da. And they're like, we'll be back, whatever, whatever. And then at some point in time, all I remember is walking through the streets of British Columbia in this little party district, shouting to my friend JG, where them girls go? Oh man, I was hoping to meet them girls. Where'd they go? Oh, dude, this all sucks, man. I'm drunk in the middle of the streets in British Columbia, and the girls are gone away. So that lasted for a good 10 minutes. Uh, and then we stumbled our way back to the hostel, and we get in the house, and then in the hostel we're also staying with a couple of females because it was a co-ed hostel. Um, and room and they got there later than we did, so we hadn't met them prior. So we get in like, oh hey, how's it going? Da, 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 da. But this time I'm drunk and tired, so I'm not thinking I'm gonna hook up with anybody. And I remember there was this one girl, I think she was from Scotland. Uh, and she goes, "Oh man, are you pissed?" And I was like, "What? Nah, I'm good. I'm having a great time." She goes, "What?" I said, "Nah, I'm fine. I'm all right. I know. I mean, you know, I was mad about some girls leaving, but I'm okay now." And they're like, "No,
Are you
are you
drunk?
are you drunk?" And I was like, "Oh fuck yeah! Oh, we were so wasted, yeah." And then I remember passing out, and that's pretty much all I remember about that one night in Canada. So yeah, that's my sole memory of Canada was that one crazy night getting pissed drunk at a bar somewhere and didn't pay for one single thing.
That's great.
Because
That's
because
great.
again, everybody kept buying me drinks, and I'm a fun drunk. I really don't drink like that anymore. But like I'm that fun. I'm dancing. I'm having a good time. I'm talking. I'm laughing. I'm cracking up jokes. I'm saying stupid shit. I don't get belligerent. I'm the kind of drunk who always kind of announce or marvels at the fact that he's drunk. You know what I mean? I'm all like, oh, hey, I'm drunk. I can. Hey, watch this, watch this. I turn my head really fast. I go, oh man, I can feel that. I can feel that catching up to me. I'm so drunk right now. Where the drinks? Where the party? That's me as a drunk. That's Big Sexy when he was drunk. At least drunk in my 20s and 30s. Not so
Well,
much nowadays.
we'll have to party a little bit when I'm out there next.
Yes, indeed, indeed. We'll definitely have to. Yeah, I don't really drink. I don't drink in public so much, but every now and then, every once in a blue moon, I probably drink maybe 2, 3 times a year tops. Because again, I've reached that age where it doesn't hit me the same, and then I'm limited to what I can have to drink. Uh, uh, I have the diabetes, so I can't do a whole lot of rum drinks. Um, which sucks because rum was my go-to. Like a good old dark rum, mix it with whatever the fuck was amazing. Now I'm strict to vodka, and vodka just tastes like rubbing alcohol, no matter what you mix it with. And I'm like, I'll drink it if I need to be in that state of mind, but I'm not a it's not doesn't hit the same, if you
Yeah.
will. So every now and then I will have a drink, a single beverage, going, okay, this is good or whatever. But since I don't drink that much, those hit me.
Yeah.
Those hit me. So
I've got some experience when it comes to rum. My favorite actually coined the phrase, I think there's rum in here. Not a very unique or special phrase, but I was in Puerto Rico for like a long weekend or something. We were staying at some resort, some girl that I was dating at the time, and we just were, she was, we had just started seeing each other or whatnot. And what do they call it when a guy um, is homeless, kind of, but like shacks up with somebody to have a place to stay? Anyway, it was that phase of my life. And
Couch surfer. You're
yeah,
couch surfing.
yeah. I was, quasi homeless and had started shacking up with this gal.
Freeloader. You're a freeloader. They call it
Exactly.
freeloading.
Yeah.
Sponging. But you're a sponge.
Yeah,
You're a
something like
sponge.
that. Whatever.
Yeah.
I was opportunistic at the time,
Right.
and it was
Actor. In LA, we call that an actor.
transitioning. I was I had just gotten separated and was looking for a place but hadn't secured one yet, and so I was kind of floating around. And
Upcoming musician. We call it in some sort we call those an upcoming musician.
yeah, there you go, up and comer. So anyway, I was up in something, and finished the rest of that however you like. Anyway, she had already planned this trip with her family. She was going to Puerto Rico. She's like, hey, you should come too. So I hop online and I get tickets. I get another hotel room, get down, and everything. Woo, man, buckets. They, poolside at this place. It was just on the menu were all these different buckets. You can get this bucket, and they all had the fun little names and everything to them. Mostly loaded up with rum and whatever other sort of like fucking candy. It's like, these buckets are meant for like multiple people to throw straws in and drink. I'm just putting a straw in there and going to fucking town on this thing, and it just, you just get to that point where you're like, whew, I think there's rum in here. You just keep drinking. It was a time.
Huh.
Technically not an international story, because unlike our former president, I am aware of the fact that Puerto Rico is
part
a
of the United
U.S.
States,
territory.
right?
But a fun time.
So not quite. It's international light.
Yes, exactly. You're in a different time zone, and for somebody growing up on the East Coast who is thinking west, trips to California and Vegas, and I lived in Chicago for 2 years, so adjusting the time zone that way. Puerto Rico is in the Atlantic time zone, so you go -1 from what you're used to. So it's kind of a weird sort of.
For East Coasters, yeah, that's got to
Yes.
be a weird thing.
From a West Coast,
I have the same
it's just
kind
one
of.
more. It's just one more fucking notch in the.
Right. Yeah, I had a weird time experience when me and my mom did a cruise to Hawaii. And Hawaii is in a different time zone, which is weird because again, I'm on the Pacific coast. Again, I understand that. I think of the Pacific coast as as far as that way on the clock that I've known all my entire life. And then going, oh no, you can get further. and then there's part of me that I want to get to it's the Greenwich line, right? Where the time zones
where it starts.
Where it starts, right?
Yeah. I think
I don't know where that is. Listeners call in or write in. Let us know where that is.
I'm pretty sure that Brogan lives at Greenwich Mean Time. So all of that, when you look at the different time zones and you see GMT plus or minus or whatever, Brogan is at 0.
Oh, all right, Brogan, write in. Tell us what it's like in the no times. What time is it in no time? Do you understand the concept of time zone? I guess you understand the concept, but you're not a time zone. You're time zone 0.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I want to at some point in time, which I'm pretty sure once we move, I will get a chance to go there and experience that. That is on my list of places to be. I want to. I don't know. I know there's not like a physical line, but I'm pretty sure somewhere in some country there is. Where you cross in one thing, you cross the side. It's just weird the way to think of it. You know what I mean? Because if it starts at 0, and then goes +1, +2, +3, +4, +5, +6, +7, right, all the way to however many time zones there are on the world. And again, I'm not that scientist to know. I mean, I don't. While I'm educated, I'm not educated in time zones. I never learned it. It's not a piece of useless trivia that I have in my brain, and I don't feel like reaching out and learning anything. But I would love to. I imagine there's a line somewhere that's like, "Hey, over here it's noon. Over here it's 3 o'clock tomorrow."
Dude, it's so weird because, like, even just we're talking about international stuff here mostly, but within this country, two things that number one, you mentioned Hawaii. I have an uncle who lives on the Big Island of Hawaii. From me on the East Coast, half the year he is 5 hours difference from me. But the other half the year, and we're getting up into that time frame here soon, he then becomes 6 hours different from me.
Yes.
Because of them not changing time.
They don't change time. Yeah, they got it right. They got it right. Arizona and Hawaii, you're doing it correct.
But there are
changing the clock.
I don't remember the exact numbers, but Indiana, Western Indiana is weird as shit. There are
just naturally, just by the hard stop. Yeah.
Right. We could just start that, but specifically with the time zones. There are a handful of Western Indiana counties, and at least they've separated it by county. Like the county is in or they're out, that are basically like a suburb of Chicago that are in the central time zone, because I guess their focus is Chicago based. And I guess once you get further east and you get toward either the county surrounding South Bend or Indianapolis or what have you, they're on East Coast time. And it is like the state line is not the line. It's
right.
A handful of counties that are like, nope, we're in the central time zone. And to me, that's got to be odd as shit.
It seems like to be one of the largest time zone, and I'm pretty sure it's not accurate, but I swear to God, it seems like everybody's in that central time zone. You know who I don't ever hear? So I work, for those who don't know, the complaints department is a call center. We get calls from people all across the country. And part of that, I have to figure out what the time zone is there, because we deal with classes and schedules and things like that. So to figure out what their time zone is and find a class in their time zone. I got to give them their class times in their time zone. The difficulty comes in those states. I swear, like, Illinois, I never remember if it's Eastern or Central. Eastern and Central confuse me. And then I hardly ever get anybody in Mountain. Like, I know Utah, I think, is in Mountain, and Colorado is in Mountain.
Yeah, that's all I know. I'm assuming Idaho.
Maybe Idaho. I think Idaho right
there. But what are there, like 8 people there in Idaho?
Right. What I'm obviously showcasing is my lack of geographical knowledge without looking at a map to know firsthand.
Your knowledge is based on needs.
But like, when I see like Wisconsin, I have to go, okay, Wisconsin, are you Mountain or Central? And they're Central. I get those kind of like, oh, and like Ohio is Eastern.
Yeah.
Right. And I get it, but Ohio doesn't sound like something on the East, in the Eastern time zone. Ohio sounds like it's Midwest. Ohio sounds like it should be in Central time.
The mentality of most of the people that I know from Ohio are pretty Midwestern. That's
right.
That's not a dig.
I also the time zone should represent the way that people behave, not so much the actual.
But then the lines, then the time zone lines would go east to west and not north and south.
Right. Which I think would be hilarious if there were also time zones.
And then there'd be Florida.
If there was grids, if there was a time zone grid.
I mean, technically there is. Like, a lot of the South is a good 50 to 100 years in the past.
Yes, yeah, that time that time zone is decades. The decades. Oh, okay. I forgot that you're in the 50s. But even
Yeah.
that's supplemented, right? Uh, yeah, but I really want them to stop uh moving the clock. Oh, they are going to. They're going to stop moving the clock. That was a federal law that was passed. It's supposed to take into effect, I think, 2023 or 2024. Or I think this next move will be the second to last move or the last move of the time zone. I think that's accurate. Um, I think I'm correct. Oh, falling. Sorry, I'm doing the poor podcasting thing. It's funny. I'm on the headset yelling, so anybody who's watching the feed of this, when we finally decide to post a video, just got an exciting ride as I knocked down
Woo!
my camera. But you guys just heard the exclamation of me knocking down my camera, but you didn't get a chance to see it. But hopefully, you get a chance to see it in the future.
That's right.
And that's what we're planning on doing. Yeah, so international travel, man.
Yes. Tell us your
Our trip.
stories. You got to have
So our
crazy stories out there,
we
right?
want to
So,
hear your stories. Tell us all about your international trips, the most exciting experience you took on an international trip, specifically international. So whatever your nation is, I want to hear an exciting story of when you left your country of origin, traveling the world. And if you haven't left your country of origin yet, fix your life.
that's
Go
right.
see the world. There's so much out there to experience. Hell, if you get a chance, come on out to Portugal. That's where I'll be eventually. So uh, come and we'll have a field day. Uh, Maybe one day once we set up a Patreon, we'll have a digital nomad Patreon day
Yeah.
uh, where you can either come out to Portugal or go out to Maryland and spend the day with either one of us, hanging out and doing things. I know I have the lion's share of that desire. I get it. Understand that people will probably want to come to Portugal because Portugal.
Another
But
thing that we should do, and the date may be announced by the time this episode drops, but I want to encourage anybody who listens to this podcast who is not a listener of ICS to join us at the next Scoop Fest, whenever that is. And I know that it is an ICS thing, Scoop Fest, but it is a ton of fun. It doesn't matter whether you listen to their podcast or not. It's just a ton of interest. And I know that a lot of scoops are probably listening to this, but there are probably some non-scoops listening.
there will be some non-scoop. I'm sure there'll be some non-scoops listening.
It
Which
is a
is
time.
if you're looking for additional podcasts, Matt and Madeline's Ice Cream Social is not a bad one to listen to. I mean, it can be a bad one to listen to, but it's still a lot of fun and hilarious. We're definitely supporters of the Ice Cream Social here on Big Sexy Digital Nomad.
And you are talking about, probably, no matter who you are in this world, and no matter how much you know about what they've got going on and all their inside jokes, because I mean they've been podcasting this shit for like 9 years. There's so much
Well,
coming up
yeah,
on
for a
9
long
years.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is the most welcoming and inclusive group of people. And I'm not talking necessarily about Matt and Paul and Jacob specifically, them too,
No,
but
because they're
all
assholes.
of the scoops. It doesn't, you
They're
could
not.
be whoever you are and be 110% welcome in this group of people. So if we don't have something by the time that they have a scoop fest lined up for a meet and greet, we should probably just roll out a tiny little red
Yeah.
carpet to come hang out with us there, because it's absolutely
Hopefully,
worth it.
hopefully by the next Scoop Fest, we will have this ball rolling so smoothly that we'll be one of the podcasts, one of the invited podcasts to perform, not perform, but be there as a podcast, as
And
opposed to
whip
just
some ass
scoops.
in trivia. Oh shit,
Yeah,
yeah.
yes, I think I really wanted to start a podcast just so I can participate in that movie, the trivia podcast battle, um, at Scoop Fest. Uh, yeah, so I'm looking forward to that type of stuff, and it'll be very interesting because that will be me returning to the States. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
like it'll be, it'll be different because the last Scoop Fest was here in Vegas, and usually in Vegas, and it's my hometown. Now I'm going to be one of the many people traveling in, you know,
Oh yeah.
coming back home, hopefully with many many stories to tell, uh, and all that fun stuff. So yes, um, nice plug for Matt and Malins, which you'll probably hear quite often because that's how the Almost Psychic and I met.
That's right.
We
We wouldn't be in this room virtually. We would not be in your ear holes without most
with
likely without
yeah,
them. So
without them. So yeah, they are. While I don't call us really a sister podcast, we are here because of them. So they're kind of like father podcast, I guess. They gave
the
birth to
Godfathers.
this um this method, this ideology, this decision of two grown men deciding to talk to one another with people listening in, um thing that the podcast things has become.
Oh yeah. So hit us
Yeah.
up. Tell us your thoughts. We will big sexy nomad on basically all the socials that we're on. If it's not there, we're not there.
Yep. You can go to bigsexynomad.com. We have a website that'll take you to our podcast website where you can leave us a voicemail, I think, or a message, at least a message.
Yeah.
And pretty soon here, we're going to start pulling those up and reading those and checking them out. Do we have any? I haven't even looked.
We certainly will by the time this
It's
episode
so
airs, but
early.
we haven't yet. But if you go to, assuming we haven't changed it by then.
Oh, well, that's because so at the time of this recording, we haven't dropped a single episode yet.
That's right.
At the time of this recording, our first episode is dropping tomorrow.
That's right. So if you want to timestamp,
by the time you heard this, by the time you've heard this, our episodes will be dropping, but they're a little bit behind the scenes. At the time of this recording, we are pre-launch. So welcome to if you made it this far to whenever this is, thank you. Thank you for being a part of this journey so far.
That's right. That's right. So yeah, till next time. Thanks for
all right.
Thanks for stopping
Thanks
by.
for hanging out. I'm Big Sexy.
And I am the Almost Psychic.
And this has been Big Sexy Digital Nomad. Talk to you later.
All right.